Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, heads into the second half of the season today at the historic Watkins Glen International. K-Pax Racing's stranglehold on the series was broken yesterday when Wright Motorsports Pro-Am lineup of Jan Halen and Charlie Luck broke through to take an overall win. Today, the series returns for the second leg of the doubleheader weekend. Who will conquer the Glen? We're about to find out as round 8 of the season is just minutes away. Hello everyone, welcome to upstate New York and Watkins Glen International. My name is Ryan Marine along with Calvin Fish and Amanda Busick. What a beautiful venue and site for this championship, which heads into the second half of the calendar year here today. And let's waste no time in introducing you to this wonderful circuit with our track preview.
Hi, I'm Michael. Here's a lap of Watkins Glen International Raceway. Going down into turn 1, looking for the 200 board for braking. Rolling a lot of speed because there's a camber in the road here. Back on power, up to third gear. Now we're looking up to the climbing S's. Over 200 kilometers an hour here going up the hill. Back to the left to completely blind, but it's full throttle on our Acura NSX GT3. A lot of time to think about the lap here and how we're going to attack it going forward. So next corner is the bus stop, and we're looking for the 300 board for the braking. Carry a lot of speed over these curbs, just basically jumping them in the NSX. Back into the carousel immediately. Fourth gear corner, super quick. On power on the exit. Going back down the hill into turn 6. Really late braking here. Try and get the car set up for the exit. Back on power, picking up grip going down the hill. A lot of grip in this next corner going uphill into turn 7. Brake really late, down to second gear, turn the car, and back on power up the hill. A lot of hills and elevation change here at Watkins Glen International Raceway. Going into turn 8, really hard braking after the 200 board. Just throw the car in here and let it slide a little bit and back on power on the exit. Next turn 9, going up over the crest, try and get the car in tight, but get a little free here and have to catch the car a little bit. And they run out right to the wall. Next, turn 10, super fast, left-hand corner. Use all the road on the exit. And now coming into the last corner here, turn 11, down to third gear, quick entry, and then again, right up to the wall on the exit. And that's a lap at Watkins Glen International Raceway.
That trip around Watkins Glen, courtesy of Michael Cooper and Real Time Racing. We had a good day yesterday, looking to repeat that here today as we close in on the start at Watkins Glen. It was an exciting race yesterday to get this doubleheader weekend started. K-Pax Racing, you see the two Lamborghinis at the front of the shot. They have been so strong all season long, but Calvin, misfortune struck, and it struck in a big way for the California-based team.
It did. They had drama throughout the day. It's strange to see the two K-Pax Racing cars at the bottom end of the classified runners here yesterday. 3 car had some technical issues, and this one car, while they battled it out for the lead, then penalties assessed to Michele Beretta with a battle that he was in with Michael Dinan, meant that they came down pit lane 3 times, got the penalty wrong, didn't do the mandatory minute hold, had to come again and then do their mandatory driver change, plummeted them down the order.
Yeah, disappointing day for sure. Let's look at our highlights from race 1 yesterday. There were a lot of them, that's for sure. It was a wild race with some bad luck popping up late in the race for a couple of teams that have had plenty of that so far. But at the start, Michele Beretta did get a good jump from the pole. The early mover, though, was Michael Dinan in the Turner BMW.
Yeah, we've seen it so many times. Michael Dinan gets up on the wheel early in these races. He's got a lot of aggression, and he takes that BMW to P2 early.
He did, and he was a star on several of the restarts we had early in this race as well. On board here, this was an interesting moment. That was when a mechanical issue hit the other K-Pax car with Misha Goldberg at the wheel.
Yeah, and that's scary there, coming up through the S's. You're really threading the needle. It's a little bit blind. And then we see Stephen Agakani and Russell Ward going side by side there through turn 8, the heel of the boot, and finally Russell Ward makes that move.
And these two put on a show and both featured prominently towards the end of the race. This was an issue for the Bimmer World car, Chandler Hull, with the bodywork coming dislodged, but they would recover. This was an interesting moment here between Erin Vogel and her former team boss, David Askew, and it continued for a few corners.
It did. Great battle. Great to see that real-time racing accurate in the mix for the points here this weekend.
Had to start at the back of the grid, but they made their way forward. This was a huge moment here. You mentioned the penalty earlier. This is where it came.
Yeah, and I think it was more for the move on the straightaway, edging Michael Dinan into the grass at high speed. Then Michele Beretta got that call, and they got it a bit wrong when they came down pit lane.
The big winner there, though, was the Windward Mercedes, which came to the front. US Racetronics also featured at the front, but had an issue there with the left front, and that meant that the Pro-Am car of Charlie Luck and Jan Heylen wound up at the pointing end. As time expired, they pick up another win this season, and an overall win at that. Big result for Wright Motorsports.
It really was, and it was really important because it cuts in the lead of Colin Brown and George Kurtz in the points.
One of many storylines we'll be keeping an eye on in this 90-minute race, which is about to get started in upstate New York. Bill Auberland set to start this car for Bimmer World Racing. He and Chandler Hull overcame some frustration yesterday when the bodywork at the back of that car did have an issue. Let's go down trackside.
Well, guys, it's hard to believe that it's already time for race number 8 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge. And here to give the command to the drivers is Sergeant Derwin Melendez-Diaz.
Drivers, start your engines!
Fantastic command, and the engines are fired down trackside, and the cars now making their way to the racetrack for the first of 2 formation laps. It's going to be an interesting grid to keep an eye on, with some of the cars that featured prominently yesterday shuffled a little bit further back. Qualifying for this race was settled early in the morning yesterday, and much different conditions here today, Calvin, than we saw a day ago.
Very much so. A little bit more cloud cover. That should take the heat off the racetrack and also the heat off the team in terms of managing these tires here today.
Should also note that the SRO America family is in mourning here this weekend after the recent passing of Marlena Solomon. After a lengthy battle with cancer, Marlena had a long career in and around the motorsports industry. She joined the SRO America team prior to the start of this season, and our hearts certainly go out to Marlena's friends and family. Godspeed. Now, from that somber note, we turn to the business at hand. The cars make their way out on the racetrack, and we'll be warming up those tires. Tire warmers, of course, in play here in this championship, but still very important to get them ready. First of 2 laps, sighting laps around Watkins Glen. Cars coming through the inner loop here. It's a challenging part of this racetrack. We had the onboard lap earlier, Calvin. What makes Watkins Glen such a unique place?
Well, I think the grip level, I mean, it's resurfaced a few years ago, and that just upped the ante here in terms of the commitment that it takes. It's high speed, certainly lots of elevation change, some blind corners, but you've got to put it all on the line. And I think it allows also to make some bold moves around the outside because the grip is still there, but then as the race gets a little bit deeper, then you've got the marbles to worry about. So you've got to be on your toes, but just wonderful and very challenging to drive.
This is a team that is anxious to put yesterday behind them. Loris Spinelli looked like he was in line for a runaway race win and a long-awaited first win when they had the issue with the tire going down very late in the going. This team has been snake-bitten all season, and just when you thought, surely this one's within their grasp, something went wrong.
Yeah, there was some tire issues going on. He had a lot of heat from behind. Philip Ellis in the Windward Racing machine was right there, about a second or less than most of the race. So that kept pushing both of those Mercedes, and ultimately they both had tire issues late in the going.
The good news is they've got the overall pole for this race. It was a masterful performance from Spinelli in qualifying. He put it on pole by about 0.6 of a second over Jordan Pepper. Philip Ellis in Windward Racing's return. We haven't seen this team since Sonoma, but they were strong yesterday, and this is a good package. They have a ton of experience with the Mercedes.
Yeah, and this is another team that in other championships has been knocking on the door for victory over the last few weeks, including the 6-hour race here at Watkins Glen last month, and last week, in fact, lost a race in the last couple of corners. So they've been snake-bitten too, but both cars have tremendous pace here. Just be managing those tires a little bit more effectively will be a key to victory.
Swiss driver Philip Ellis will share the driving duties with team co-owner Russell Ward. He's been very quick over the last calendar year, has racked up some big wins. Looked like they had a shot at the win yesterday until they had that misfortune. Behind them, really good starting position here for Ryan Dial, Triarsi Competizione. This is the pole-sitting car in Pro-Am.
Yeah, this Ferrari has really been performing well. Great team, relatively new to our championship. Dipped their toe in the water last year, but now have 2 cars full-time. And Weatherall, his teammates, doing a nice job as well. So they have a really outstanding chance of maybe grabbing that Pro-Am victory here today.
A lot of Ferrari challenge experience, but branching out into GT3 racing. Starting behind them will be the points leaders in Pro-Am, Colin Brown and George Kurtz. They continue to have strong, consistent results week in and week out.
They do, but that points lead is now down to just 6 points.
And that's because of the win yesterday from Charlie Luck and John Halen, which made big inroads in that Pro-Am championship. It's pretty open still with half the season to go. So much drama yet to play out over the course of the 2020 season. Second of 2 formation laps underway. Let's hear from the third member of our team, Amanda Busick.
Well, guys, the cars just came around us here on the front stretch, and you could see the sun beaming off of the top of the cars. So it begs the question, are we going to have tire issues here again today? I spoke with both of the Mercedes that gave us that battle there towards the end of the race, and both out with left front tire damage. Russell Ward said they didn't make really adjustments to the cars. They're going to make theirs internally with the drivers and see if they can just change how they're taking laps around Watkins Glen and see if that will be the effect. But US Racetronics, they did some changes within the camber of the tires, specifically on the left-hand side. But one of the things that they've said that might be a benefit for them is the tires on that car only did 4 laps in qualifying. Loris put that Mercedes on the pole. They brought it into the pits, parked it in preparation for race number 2 here at Watkins Glen.
Thanks very much, Amanda. And that's good to know. And that car might have a bit of an advantage early on, certainly an advantage starting on pole. Spinelli, once again, his 4th pole and his many possible attempts this season. Tremendous qualifier. He'll have Jordan Pepper next to him. Philip Ellis and Ryan Dial make up row number 2. Then you'll find Colin Brown and Jan Halen, 2 guys fighting for the Pro-Am Points Championship in row 3. Row 4, Brian Sellers and Mario Farnbacher in a Mercedes and Acura, respectively. K-Pax Racing's Andrea Caldarelli all the way back in row 5. He'll have Robbie Foley next to him. Bill Oberlin and Charlie Scardina make up the next row. You saw the rest of the starting field on the screen. We're down a couple of cars due to some attrition throughout the weekend. We'll talk more about that as the race goes on. But now the cars entering the VP acceleration zone. The pace car is gone, and the field is under the control of Loris Spinelli and the US Racetronics Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. Very slowly here through turn number 11 onto the pit straight. Everyone in good alignment. We wait for the green flag and the start of race number 8 of the season. There is the green, and Spinelli gets the acceleration away. Pepper immediately slots in line behind. Ryan Dial looking aggressive in the Triarsi Ferrari. Same for Ellis. He takes a peek to the inside, and there are Brown and Halen dueling yet again.
Just like we saw yesterday, cut and paste there between the Porsche and the Mercedes, middle of that pack.
They're still side by side entering the S's. This is a fight here for 2nd and 3rd in the Pro-Am ranks. Mario Farnbacher, an interested spectator. They made contact. You saw the puff of smoke. For now, they continue on.
And Colin Brown just clears him. Here comes Mario Farnbacher. He had the lead in class yesterday before he had a tire issue too, trying to make some moves on this opening lap.
Oh, they get it sorted out into the inner loop for the first time. That quick right, left, right section that was put into place here, in the last 30 years or so, one of the more recent additions to this track. Great start from Spinelli to get out in front. It should be Spinelli in the car. Timing and scoring
that's a big
says
slide there. Boy, did you see Colin Brown there, really loose there, down the hill, down into turn 6.
But he kept his foot in it. Here comes Halen looking aggressive in the early going. Farnbacher too. He's going to make the long way work, draws even around the outside, but then has to fall back in line.
Wow. Brilliant opening laps there. Everyone putting it all on the line. They come out of the tire blank as the Pirelli P0s do, but not up to pressure yet.
How about Foley around the outside of Sellers? That's for class position. A little bit further back in the running order. That would be for 5th in Pro-Am.
Look deep in the pack. You got to look back to 12th position for our championship leader, Andrea Caldarelli.
Wow, disappointing start after a struggle in qualifying. The K-Pax team admitted that they've been struggling with this chassis since the rounds at VIR. Haven't quite figured out why it is lacking in pace. Beretta still put it on pole yesterday, but right now, Caldarelli, newly named LMDH factory driver for Lamborghini's upcoming prototype program, he is mired in traffic.
This is going to be a spicy opening half to this race with all of the pros starting in the Pro-Am lineups. Everyone right on the limit there. You can see the car still relatively low as Michael Cooper bounds over that exit curbing there in turn one, just bottoming out briefly.
Spinelli and Pepper have separated themselves from the rest of the field. It's over a second, then back to Philip Ellis. Then you find this battle. Ryan Dial leading in Pro-Am. Behind him, they fan out two abreast as Farnbacher again takes a shot at Jan Halen.
Yeah, this is really ideal here for Colin Brown because Jan Halen's having to get super defensive on Farnbacher, and that's allowing Colin Brown to sort of focus forward at this stage of the game.
It's also brought Robbie Foley into the mix after that bold move around the outside of Brian Sellers that netted him a position. Now, this Turner team, they won yesterday in class. It was not an overall win, but it is still a win in the pro ranks. Big win for them, big confidence booster with this new car.
Very much so, and I tell you what, Michael Dinan, the move that he tried to make there on Michele Beretta was immense and just demonstrates how much confidence and aggression he's willing to give.
We'll see him in the second half of the race. Oh, that was some door-to-door contact. Caldarelli getting his elbows out, guarding against Bill Oberlin.
Oberlin looking to move forward. They had that trunk issue, but then they had that car up into a P3 solid podium run. Suddenly they had a tire issue late in the going, so they're trying to rebound as well.
This is not a position that Andrea Caldarelli has found himself in with any regularity since joining this championship last year. He has been a front runner. He's the reigning champion. He had a 10-race win streak, at least at the 90-minute races, discounting the 8-hour at Indianapolis, but that was snapped yesterday.
It certainly was. They've been such a tough team executing at the highest level, but all went south on them yesterday. Got that penalty call. It was a stop and hold for 1 minute. They just drove through, so they had to come again, and that was right in the pit stop window. Effectively 3 stops over 4 minutes on pit lane cost them dearly.
Stewart saw that move he put on Bill Oberlin, and a warning has been issued for blocking to Caldarelli very early in the going. Looked like he was making some inroads on Michael Cooper in the real-time racing Acura, but then they get through the S's, and that might be that straight line deficit we've heard the team talk about. Can't quite keep up there in the slipstream.
Yeah, certainly, and the key to trying to block or be defensive is making the move, not reacting, being proactive to where you want to place your car on the racetrack. As they came out of turn 7, you could see him weaving around a little bit on Bill Oberlin, but now he goes back on the attack. Oberlin sees an opportunity at the same time.
Michael Cooper in that Acura, he and Aaron Vogel had a remarkable day yesterday, starting in the very back of the field. They ended up 4th overall and on the class podium. When, if you had polled them before the race, I'm not sure they would have said that was in the cards, given the weekend they'd been having.
Yeah, coming off a very rough weekend, as now we see Oberlin and Caldarelli going side by side into the brake zone. Bill's going to try and run it around the outside. Let's see if Caldarelli gives him any room. No, he doesn't. Getting back to the Cooper car, he had to suffer a penalty. He had a brake failure at VIR, took out Madison Snow, but that's a penalty moving forward. Thus, that car started at the very back. Aaron Vogel did a brilliant job in her opening stanza. And the car seems to have pretty decent race pace, even though qualifying still seems to be something they struggle with.
Behind them again, Caldarelli still feeling the pressure from Oberlin. Bill has not been terribly happy with his race car throughout the course of the weekend. This is a look at Michael Cooper, who gave us a tour of the track in that track preview. Native of New York, loves racing here at Watkins Glen.
Oh, and he's wide there. Track limits are certainly being looked at in turn 1, turn 8, turn 10, so that'll be a notch against him. Got to be careful with that.
And ahead of this trio is the lone AM class car in the field, which again was qualified very ably by Charlie Scardina. He and D'Onofrio Triarci have been a good pairing in that class. They're running unopposed this weekend, but have had some opposition from AF Corsa throughout the course of the season. It's been an interesting duel when both have been there.
Well, it's just a tremendous performance when you put it in perspective. He's got Michael Cooper, Andrea Caldarelli, Bill Oberlin, Dirk Mueller, and Madison Snow running behind him.
Yeah. That's a talented young man, Charlie Scardina, who gave racing a shot pretty early in his life, ultimately went a different route professionally, but reached a point where he could return to the cockpit, and he has been fast.
Spinelli continues to lead up front, just laid down the fastest lap of the race at 1:45.5. Pepper a couple of tenths off that, and Philip Ellis a tenth or two behind that as well.
Pepper not letting him get away. These are the top two. Spinelli and Agakani sharing that Mercedes that's out in front. So close so many times this season. It just doesn't seem right that they don't have a win yet.
It's amazing, and they just kept tripping up in pit lane. Typically during the races earlier this year, yesterday they looked to have it in control, admittedly with pressure from behind, and then that tire issue cost them dearly.
New fastest lap of the race, and that time Spinelli was able to leg out an edge over Pepper. The gap has grown to 1.2 seconds. US Racetronics pacing the field in upstate New York. South African Jordan Pepper, he teamed with Andrea Caldarelli last year to win the championship in the pro class. He's been split from his teammate starting in the second round of the season, or third round, second event of the season at NOLA. Teamed now with Misha Goikberg. This car had those mechanical issues yesterday, but appears to be at full song today.
Spinelli and Pepper, it sounds like a good Italian meal, doesn't it?
It does.
But this is a good opportunity here for Jordan Pepper to cut into the championship lead of Andrea Caldarelli, who he started the season with, did the opening rounds at Sonoma, which they swept. Then there was a change in the regulations, which meant the pro cars had to have a silver graded driver on board. So they split their forces between the 1 and the 3. And since that time up until this weekend, Caldarelli and Beretta were unbeaten together. Talk about the massive margin that Spinelli had in qualifying, but Pepper was on a slightly better lap and got balked, so that margin may not have been as extreme, and that's showcasing itself here. Admittedly, we said with the report from Amanda that the US Racetronics team may be trying to manage their pace a little bit, trying to hold on to that left front a little bit longer today.
But they do have a potential advantage in tires, again, thanks to that report from Amanda talking about their strategy. Each team has allotted a certain number of tires that they have for the course of the weekend, and it's not a huge number. The fact that Spinelli was able to go out in that qualifying session, just 4 laps in, put down a time they thought was going to be unassailable, and park the car, saving extra laps on those tires, that could be very big for them down the road. As we see the Turner car coming to the pit lane, this is the Pro Class winner from yesterday, who finished 3rd overall.
Obviously very unscheduled here. We don't see any penalties or anything, so we assume this is a technical issue. Tire at the ready.
It's a
right front, which is unusual, so maybe that's just a cut down tire from something else.
He is released. Quick work by the Turner crew, but that drops them out of contention, barring a safety car intervention at some point in this race. So something wrong with the right front on that car. Oberlin has gotten past Caldarelli. So Andrea now dropping all the way back. That's to the 12th position. I guess that's where he was before, but with Foley pitting, that effectively puts him a little bit further behind than he was.
Really unusual position to be in for that team and for that driver. So how does he manage this? How does he control his emotions?
Now that's going to be the question to keep an eye on here as the race continues. 10 minutes in, Caldarelli with some work to do. Andrea Caldarelli has slipped past or slipped behind Bill Oberlin, who has jumped up one more spot. That's not a change of position in class, but the pro car of Caldarelli now 4th in his class, 12th overall. Robbie Foley had an issue with the right front of that car, had to make an unscheduled pit stop, and has dropped to the tail of the field in the car that won the pro class yesterday.
Tell you what I'm seeing a lot of these drivers flirting with those track limits in turn 1. I saw Spinelli come close, if not outside the boundaries. I've seen Pepper do it. And they're really trying to take the load out of that tire. Some of it is just for lap time, or you just commit to rolling speed through the turn 1 apex. But I think everyone's conscious of not overloading for a long time that left front tire, and you're trying to release your hands a little bit early on the wheel.
Or Spinelli out in front. He's got this race under control with a 1.2 second lead. Let's hear from the team with Amanda.
Well, Stephen, we were covering yesterday that you've been racing through this weekend with strep throat. You had lost 11 pounds, running a fever heading into the weekend. To kick things off now, how are you feeling today?
Definitely much better. Nowhere near 100%, of course. You know, it's definitely hard to try and recover. I didn't actually take any medication besides just a lot of water, Pedialyte, just the simple stuff, and just kind of tanked it. And now here we are at the race weekend. But you know, no matter what it is, no matter what happens, when you have a race, you have to get in the car. You got to sit your butt in the seat and you got to go drive. You know, there's no other way around it. But I mean, yeah, here we are. Yesterday, obviously, you know, I feel like I could have performed a little bit better, even though to some other people and standards it was a much better drive than most. But you know, it wasn't as good as I want. But you know, it's okay. We improve. But stay feeling a little bit better. So I'm excited to get back in the car.
And talking about the tire strategy you guys did, changing a little bit of the camber, Loris only on tires that had 4 laps from qualifying. What have you seen today that this might be the day where you guys finally get on that top step?
It's such a hit or miss out here at Watkins Glen. You know, sometimes it can be the track that can ruin it. Sometimes it can be other cars that can ruin it. It's so on-off with this one specific racetrack. And even from personal experience of other years of my racing career, you know, we've had on-off days here at Watkins Glen. Camber is a little bit of an effect. Obviously, the car's not going to be able to perform as well, but it's going to have a little bit longer lasting tire life. So we're hoping, you know, we're only trying to sacrifice so much performance to tire life, you know, just really trying to push the edge on it. But that's just, you know, the kind of close competition that we have in this high level of racing.
Cal, I know you saw Steven outside of the hotel the other day. I have to say, he looks much better, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's looking good, and the car is looking good right now. When we talk about camber, that's basically the angle of the tire. Imagine if you're skiing, the inside edge of the ski. What you're trying not to do is overheat that inside edge on the tire when you're running. So you flatten the platform out, the contact patch out a little bit. But that means when you loaded the car, it's not really getting the same amount of grip. So that changes the balance a little bit.
To give it a take, but we saw couple teams with issues yesterday, and so I think the lesson learned, yeah, maybe you give up a little bit of performance, but if it means you can make it to the finish without some of the tire wear, then you should be better in the long run. Ryan Dial continuing to pace the Pro-Am field. It's been a really good start to the race for this team.
It really has. Looking at the fastest lap of the day at Spinelli at 145.32. Ryan Dial was on 145.39, so he is right there on pace.
Impressive. He picked up the win in class at VIR, one of the races there. He and Justin Wetherill, who have been working together in single-make Ferrari racing. Ryan coaching him, and now bringing him along up into the GT3 ranks. And again, we talked a little bit about this Triarci team when we were talking about Charlie Scardina, the AM class car. But this is the Pro-Am class car, and as it seems like the team is getting more and more familiar with the GT3 platform of the Ferrari, their pace has gone up, and you could see the performance level increasing week in and week out from both of their cars.
Yeah, talking to Justin, Ryan's teammate this weekend, he's loving life. He said, I'm really gaining a lot of confidence, getting a lot more racy and comfortable with his GT3 machine, and enjoying the fact that he's running around cars that have different attributes. When you're running some Mercedes, for example, like Ryan is trying to chase down right now, is identifying where the strengths and weaknesses and then strategizing around that in terms of your racecraft.
He's got a nice, healthy lead at the moment over Colin Brown, 1.6 seconds. It's about equidistant then, going back to Jan Heylen in third. This is Justin, who we were talking about a moment ago, waiting for his turn in the car.
Fun weekend. He's got his family here for the first time running an SRO competition. They used to attend his Ferrari Challenge races. He's got his kids here as well. They're enjoying it. They love the racing, love to see their dad compete, and he's hoping to put on a great show for them.
Saw he had the cool shirt on, and it has gotten warmer. When the race started, it was 88 degrees Fahrenheit ambient. That has climbed 3 degrees since we started here. That's going to affect track condition too. 88 degrees now we're seeing. The good news is that's still a far cry from, what, the 95, 96 we topped out at yesterday?
Yeah, that's a big difference. That's a big delta, and that should certainly help these track temperatures and also the tire temps and managing that. They were looking at George Kurtz. What a weekend he's had. Swept both GT America races and put in a brilliant move on the last lap around the outside in turn 8 to seal the victory.
Yeah, that was a great finish in case you missed it. Hope you could go find the replay, because it was a great finish this morning in that GT America powered by AWS event as he made the pass on Jason Harward. Had a good run yesterday. He and Colin Brown finished second in class, and normally that's something that's going to help you pad that championship lead, but they ended up right there just behind, just a few tenths of a second behind this car, which is their closest competition for the title.
Yeah, it looks like Jan Halen has escaped the threat of Mario Farnbacher. There's the 93 Races Edge machine, still running 4th in class, 7th overall, but a good couple of seconds back now from that Porsche.
Charlie Scardina, talked about him a little bit earlier. It's part of a shootout that Porsche organized from some of the single make championships around the world to get a factory deal. Ultimately, it didn't quite work out for Charlie, but talking to him, he's not upset about that at all. He's had a very successful business career and now has found racing yet again later in life and has been very quick, as we've talked about, running 9th overall here at the moment. 1 hour, 12 minutes to go, getting a little bit closer to the start of that pit window. A nice smooth run to this point for Charlie Scardina.
Brought to you by Fanatec, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
There's a look at Colin Brown, the Texan, driving for the Riley Motorsports team this year. It's the same driver lineup we've seen for the past several seasons with Colin and George Kurtz, but new team operating the car this year. And it's been a fruitful relationship. They've been at the front more often than not.
Yeah, making the switch to Riley Motorsports, so the CrowdStrike entry has certainly been a lot sharper this year, more towards the front. And I think the most importantly, a more consistent race car. They found a sweet spot with the setup window that Colin and George certainly enjoy. With Colin's experience, he can drive a car that's a bit more edgy, but certainly for George, as the AM driver in that Pro-Am lineup, you need a car that's consistent. Every time you jump in, it's going to deliver the same type of thing. So that's really just shone in terms of George's performance here this year.
Further back in the pack on board now with Bill Oberlin as he chases down Michael Cooper. Let's just watch and listen. Chance to watch a master at work. Bill Oberlin, as successful as any driver ever for the BMW brand. Hasn't been thrilled with his race car this weekend. What are you seeing here from the onboard pictures?
It's pretty good. I mean, they're really struggling with massive understeer throughout the course of the weekend, so they've been tweaking on the car to try and dial that out. And it looks a little bit more happy here today, but they're just concerned with their overall pace. They said, you know, maybe we get it dialed in, we can find 3 or 4 tenths, but when you look at the mark, what guys like Laura Spinelli and company have been running this weekend, they said, we just can't get near that, as now we're seeing Philip Ellis close in on Jordan Pepper for P2.
Yeah, that happened quickly. Philip Ellis has closed down that gap. Spinelli is now out in front by 3.2 seconds. So Ellis has run down Pepper and did it by, he ripped off, what, 0.4 of a second on that last lap? So Philip Ellis, the Swiss driver, is on the charge, and he's bringing Ryan Dial with him. Colin Brown not too far behind with just over an hour to go. Ellis and Jordan Pepper duking it out for 2nd overall, leaving the boot at Watkins Glen. The fight is on for 2nd overall. Jordan Pepper has fallen off the back of Laura Spinelli, and Philip Ellis has arrived, and he's got Ryan Dial in tow.
Yeah, I think unless Pepper can find a bit of pace here, this is going to be a 4-car battle here shortly. Could have been just a one-off lap, or maybe Pepper's starting to lose the balance in that Lamborghini Huracan.
Spinelli just turned in a 46.8. Pepper actually did a 46.4, so he was the quickest of the two on this lap. Ellis basically identical times, and Dial quickest of all with a 46 flat. And Colin Brown even faster. How about that? A 45.8 this deep into the stint. Impressive.
Yeah, and we're seeing track limit violations being bounced up on the timing and scoring here. So some of these drivers have got to be careful. I mean, they were threatened. These are not just warnings. They're going to drive you down pit lane if you continue to abuse that. So for the 3 car, he looked a little bit wide there through turn 1, as did a couple of his other competitors, admittedly. But even so, the 3 car has drawn a warning already here today.
Yeah, the 3 cars that were just issued warning are these 3 cars right here, and that was in turn 8. But the 3 car of Pepper, the 13 of Dial, and the 04 of Brown. So Ellis, the only one who's not drawn the ire of the stewarding room for track limits, at least at this stage.
Yeah, Philip Ellis there definitely biding his time. Spinelli there increasing the gap at the front. He was right on his tail here yesterday, but admittedly they've been making some tweaks to the setup here, and mainly just with the driver's foot, just try not to abuse that left front like we had some issues with yesterday. The problem is when you're tucked in behind one of these GT3 cars in front of you, it takes away some of the aerodynamic downforce on the front end of your car and creates a little bit more understeer, and that will build tire temp if you're getting some of that. Love that transition between 10 and 11. Just remarkable how quickly these cars can switch and flick across the road there.
And the different soundtracks of the different GT3 platforms as they roar by, that camera mounted on the wall at the exit of turn 11. That's one of the beautiful things about sports car racing. Each car has a distinct look and sound to it. And this day and age in motorsport, with so many things going the spec route, this is something to celebrate. Yeah,
it's really fun to watch the different manufacturers, the ebb and flow here in the race, who has the advantage in different sectors of the racetrack. Lamborghini and the Mercedes seem to have a pretty good competitive package wherever we run. Ferrari seems to be very much on form here this weekend. DL's doing a flying job there. The Scotsman Ellis looks to the inside. Pepper a little bit wide there, coming out of the bus stop. Now he gets side by side. Not sure he's going to be able to do anything with this unless he flicks it back to the inside. Tries to go the long way around. Pepper's under attack. He runs wide, slips and slides a little bit.
Yeah, the car not quite doing what Jordan Pepper would like it to do, and that's opened up an angle of attack for Philip Ellis. Still, Pepper has the preferred line, but with the windward Mercedes able to hang with him, will it give him enough room? Yes, he will. Now it's a drag race down to the heel of the boot, all behind Loris Spinelli. Ellis moves him over to the left, and Brian DL wants a piece of the action.
Wow, that's classy driving there between those two, just giving each other enough room. That is excellent stuff. But however, Pepper has now opened up the door a little bit for Ryan DL to try and swing that Ferrari around the outside. He should clear him here.
Ellis had to work so hard for it, but the seas just parted for Ryan Dial, and he needed no second invitation. The Scotsman, the leader in Pro-Am, now around the K-Pax Lamborghini of Jordan Pepper. Not for class position, but what this does is it creates that little bit of a log jam and a buffer between himself and the next closest car in class, this Crown Strike Mercedes.
I'm just amazed we're not seeing side view mirrors being clipped there on the exit of turn 11. They're getting so close to that outside wall. Certainly track limits are being flirted with there again with the 3 car. I hate to point out on individual cars, they're all kind of doing it a little bit.
Halfway through this opening stint, the pit window set to open. 5 minutes either side of the halfway mark in this 90-minute race. Corner speeds at the S's, the section of the track we just went through. Philip Ellis, Ryan Dial, the quickest so far, evenly matched, 127.3 miles per hour.
Yes, high speed, and you're up over 160 by the time you get to the bus stop and hit the anchors at the end of that back straightaway.
Colin Brown, he can sense weakness. He knows that Pepper just can't keep that car pinched the way that he would like to, and the way that it did early in the stint, and it's costing Pepper some performance.
Yeah, you can see Colin's able to just tuck the nose of his Mercedes there and just carve the corner a little bit more effectively. Jordan's going to fight, though. Got to dig and claw for everything he can get here today. Now Brown to the inside. I think Jordan's given it up now. Doesn't want to fight, doesn't want to touch his dive plane there and lose any more downforce.
Not for class position here. That's the second place car in Pro-Am, going by the third place car in Pro. Now, this was the car that was running second at the start of the race, and clearly this K-Pax package is starting to slip backwards as the run progresses, and he's still got a long way to try and nurse those tires to get to the pit window. 63 minutes to go. Spinelli comfortably out in front, but Philip Ellis starting to throw down some fast laps, just at his best the last time by.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Fanatec, AWS, and CrowdStrike.
Philip Ellis, Calvin, that last time by, personal best 145.4. That was 0.6 of a second quicker than Loris Spinelli. We saw these two Mercedes teams dueling yesterday, and we might get a repeat.
Well, maybe the pace that he was having to manage behind Jordan Pepper there saved his tire a little bit, but now he's on the attack. But he's got to remember yesterday. I mean, drivers' memories are sometimes short, so got to think about the big picture here. These tires have to survive probably about another 20 minutes. You'd have to feel these pros in the Pro-Am lineup will go deep into that pit stop window. That will open up in 12 minutes. Mercedes just seems so strong on this circuit. Spinelli done a nice job up front. I think he was definitely managing his pace to conserve those tires a little bit. As Amanda alluded to, this team elected to take a little bit of that left front camber out. Winwood did not, just said the driver's going to deal with it, not force the issue through some of these corners. How much speed you can roll through turn 11 with the downforce of these GT3 cars.
Aboard with the race leader, Loris Spinelli. Late on the brakes into turn 1. This is where we've been looking for track limits. This looks good.
No issues there. I haven't seen Spinelli really get too wide there through turn 1.
We've seen Jordan Pepper dropping back through the field. We've got to report that under tray on that car might be loose. That could be resulting in a performance loss. Look for that the next time we get a shot of the car. This is that inner loop or the bus stop to the outer loop or carousel. Several of these corners have multiple names depending on the jargon you prefer. Let's look at the under tray here. Does it look a little dislodged on the left-hand side? Drop down a little bit and then vibrating?
Possibly. Yeah, you certainly eat up a lot of curbs there through the bus stop chicane. Certainly loosen something up and that'll have a dramatic effect in terms of the venturi of that under tray at the back there and how much downforce it is developing.
Sharp eyes from our production team to point that out. And it has cost Jordan Pepper. Yeah, you can see it flapping in that oncoming shot. I could see it under the car. So that is not the way that you want it to be. And that's going to make for a difficult stint for Misha Goikberg, who's set to take over that car when we get into the pit window, and right now it's bringing Jan Heywood up to his rear wing. He'll be there before too much longer at the rate they're running. Down under 1 hour to go. Possible problems emerging for this car with the under tray flapping underneath Jordan Pepper. The performance loss has been noticeable one way or the other, as he has dropped down the order, now running 5th overall and 3rd in Pro-Am.
Well, he's really struggling there through turn 1. He's up and over that curve a lot, and that could have loosened that out. And the other problem is you can see it dramatically there from the head-on shot as he climbs the S's there. It's also going to give the downforce an inconsistent amount of effect, which is really tricky. It's one thing if you just lose balance a bit. If you're getting a different amount of downforce at different speeds, that'll change the balance depending on the corner. Oh, he's really twitchy there. This is a handful right now.
Let's hear more on the K-Pax story with Amanda.
Yeah, a couple of updates out of this camp. I was talking to Thomas Blom about both of the Lamborghinis on track. Let's start with the number 1. They've just been chasing a speed issue and said that it really is affecting them in that sector 1. Just can't really defend anything on track and can't get by cars either. But with the green Lamborghini, it's a loose diffuser. It is not something that they think that they're going to be able to rectify even when they make the driver changes. Thomas just said they'll simply stay stay out as long as they can and hope for that to stay part of that Lamborghini. A little update from Michele Beretta. He said this is going to be the toughest drive that he's had so far in SRO America. When it comes to realistic expectations, says he just wants to get some points today, and maybe, just maybe, some of those cars ahead of them will go out with tire issues again.
Thanks very much for the update. Those answer some of our questions. The team evidently aware of the issue for this car, and it does not look like it's getting any better. In fact, it figures to get quite a bit worse before it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, if it starts to flap too much, it could disintegrate a little bit further. They're very strong, well built with carbon, of course, but even so at the high speeds, and if you continue to abuse them over the curbs, that's going to be a problem. And for Misha Goldberg, not something to look forward to.
This is unscheduled. We are almost 8 minutes away from the pit window opening, and this is Brian Sellers making his way down at reduced speed. So we wonder, could this be another issue in the tire wear that we have seen? What does the team have ready? They do have a sticker left front. That's been the problem spot for the bulk of the weekend, if you're going to have one. And the DXDT Racing crew will replace it quickly, but that is costly for Brian Sellers and Scott Smithson.
Bit of a delay there with the communication, getting Brian going again. So yeah, with these front engine cars, it puts a lot more force into that left front. So that seems to be the problem area on the Mercedes AMG platform here this weekend. We saw it with the two lead cars yesterday of Spinelli and Philip Ellis.
Who continue to run at the front, but that's something they're going to be aware of now that it's cropped up on another Mercedes. They're going to need to be very careful for the rest of their stints.
And that may play a factor in terms of the pros going as deep into that pit stop window as possible. Maybe they want to ease the load. Depends how much they've taken out of it. Some of the cars did have to start with their qualifying tires. Admittedly, the 6-car elected not to do that, so that may help them allow Spinelli to stay out a little bit deeper. But you just got to feel, if you start to feel a vibration, get that information to the team immediately, and then change your strategy if you were trying to stay out a little bit longer.
It's just a magical shot up on the wall at turn 11. Perfect demonstration of the level of commitment required to extract lap time around this place. Jan Heylen, to be honest, I'm surprised this car has not been more in contention today. If you go back to the 2 practice sessions on Friday, he was second fastest in both of them. And they were in the mix yesterday too, of course, winning overall. For whatever reason today, outside of a brief window early on, this is kind of the pace that they've had and where they've been relative to their competition.
Yeah, maybe their car was just a bit more suited to the warmer track conditions that we've had most of the weekend. A little bit cooler here today, and maybe it's just brought other cars back into their sweet spot, so that's the reason for the delta. Farnbach is now hanging with him. He was all over him in the early going, dropped back away. This is the car, the race's age number 93, that had the lead in class yesterday. Ashton Harrison did a brilliant job in her opening stint. Mario had the car in the lead, then he suffered a tire problem. Look at the margins there, how close to the edge of the road the drivers are using every inch and more just to maximize the radius there. Coming through turn 7, known as the toe of the boot. Bit of weaving around there, maybe a bit too much rear brake bias in the cars. You plunge down the hill into that deep braking zone.
This little team has been so strong this season, and Ashton Harrison, second driver in this lineup, she's been a huge part of that. Her qualifying has been very good. Her race pace and race craft is beyond what you would expect of a driver of her relative experience. Mario Farnbacher, that's a boon to him now. He knows he does not need to push like mad, because even if he can't get a spot or two here, Ashton's capable of doing it in her stint.
Yeah, sometimes you're reliant on your co-driver. We'll look at some of the top pros. We talked to Bill Auberlen earlier this weekend saying, well, I really need Chandler to go and do his thing and get the result.
Right now, running in 4th in class, which is good enough for 7th overall, Racer's Edge Motorsports.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Pirelli, Rebellion, and VP Racing Fuels.
Inching closer to the pit window, and also inching closer is Jan Heylen. He has caught Jordan Pepper. Takes a look up the inside once again. This is where Pepper just can't quite stay close to the apex relative to where he was early in the run. And you can see on that graphic there the amount of progress that Jan Heylen has made over the past 3 laps.
Yeah, Pepper's really earning his money out there today because that car is very twitchy, a real handful it looks like. And Jan Heylen can certainly see the car moving around. He's probably got an angle where he can see that diffuser moving around as well.
Where is that going to hurt Jordan the most?
Well, high-speed corners predominantly, but I think it's the inconsistency. If it's you know, starting to porpoise a little bit underneath the car, it will actually give and then take away downforce at different parts of the circuit. But mainly the high-speed corners is where it really has its biggest effect.
These 3 cars have been locked together like a freight train for the past 20-25 minutes or so. Jordan Pepper certainly nursing an ailing car, but credit to his skill that he's been able to go relatively quickly and keep it on the black stuff.
Well, again, the point is, does it get any worse? Does it start to disintegrate or break another mountain? So we see Ashton watching the progress of her co-driver, Super Mario, behind the wheel of the 93 car. German driver, HPD factory driver, just top-notch. Wring the neck of this car. He's so comfortable. Got so many miles now behind the wheel of one of these NSXs.
Spinelli continues to lead Ellis by 2.3 seconds. It's pretty close behind them in the fight for third. This is the move, and Jan Heylen found a way by, and now he's got a car between himself and Farnbacher. Now Farnbacher will want to push and try and make sure he does not lose touch with the car in class. That would be the Porsche just up the road.
Yeah, watch Mario here. He's going to try and exit. Oh, he gets a little bit twitchy and gets wide. Had a bit of a moment there.
Yeah, we saw a move very similar to that by Jason Harward earlier in the weekend. Luckily, he kept it out of the wall. That was very close to disaster for Mario Farnbacher, but it goes to show just how hard he's pushing. Taking a look to the inside, he's going to try and take that spot away from Jordan Pepper with 51 minutes left on the clock. Mario Farnbacher trying to find a way around Jordan Pepper. Jan Heylen did it a few moments ago, not for class position, but a couple of Pro-Am cars running very, very well at the end of their stints. We're 1 minute away from the pit window coming open. Farnbacher's got a run, headed to turn 1.
Big run. Pokes his nose down to the inside, deep on the brakes. Jordan doesn't have the downforce to play with, has to give it up.
But he's going to fight back. Did he get to power early enough? Yep, he draws even. Farnbacher's going to have to give him room. This will cost Farnbacher in terms of track position relative to Heylen, but ultimately he does stave off the challenge from Pepper.
Yeah, Jordan had to lift there, otherwise he's going to understeer into the side of the Acura. So nice clean driving there by the South African, being very respectful here today with a car that's not working to his liking right now.
No, it is not, and he has dropped back appreciably because of it. This was the move Jan Heylen put on Jordan Pepper.
Yeah, and I think Jordan's just not fighting it too much. You know he's got a wounded duck that he's working with that diffuser coming loose. So you got to respect, you got top pros around you. You can't get too dirty and too aggressive in trying to defend at this stage of the game.
Well, that has turned these two loose now to fight amongst themselves. Heylen running 5th overall and 3rd in class. Farnbacher running 6th overall, 4th in class behind Brown and Dial. Those two are locked together just up the road. Only a half a second between them, 3rd and 4th overall, and the top 2 in Pro-Am. Meanwhile, Philip Ellis, after laying back for a few laps, he started to turn up the wick. And he, on that last lap, cut about half a second out of Loris Spinelli's lead. We're on board with Spinelli here. We'll check the gap as both of them cross the line. Spinelli waving to someone there. You can see on the onboard camera making the run down to turn 1. Just turned in a 46.5. Ellis behind him did a 45.8. So he closed in another 7/10.
Yeah, he did. He's really putting the heat on. He knows that these tires don't have much longer to last, so he's probably going to use them up the best he can. This is as tight as it's been all day long in terms of Spinelli having to defend that lead. Now just under a second as they climb the S's.
We are moments away from this race taking a major turn because we will see driver changes during this pit window. Spinelli will turn it over to Agakani, Ellis to Russell Ward, and then the duel will resume, but it has begun in earnest now. Philip Ellis, the Swiss driver, has caught Loris Spinelli.
Oh, this is perfect for the Winward Racing team. They really want to keep it nice and tight, try and execute maybe a slightly faster pit stop. And then it's going to be all about Stephen Agakani and Philip Ellis as Caldarelli is in.
Yes, he is. Michele Beretta will get in to take his place. We saw just a moment ago in the backdrop here. Look at the two cars next in line. Those two have been quicker than the top two over the past few laps. Spinelli, he is in strife. Ellis smells blood. He goes on the attack.
Spinelli is struggling here. We're expecting him to stay deeper into this pit stop window. Maybe he'll have to come earlier than anticipated.
Dial just went wide a few moments ago. We'll see what the stewards think about that. But the Winward car is there. The pit window is open. What will they elect to do? The moment of asking is approaching.
Yeah, I think they may have to come with a 6 car. Let's wait and see if he dives for pit lane. The Ferrari and the Mercedes were 1 second quicker than our leader last go-around. Spinelli is definitely feeling the heat from Ellis right now.
Well, Colin Brown showing it is possible to carry this deep into the stint and have the pace in the Mercedes. Oh, that was an interesting look.
Well, the flip side of it is if you stay out a little bit longer, that means a shorter stint for your teammate to deal with his set of tires. Ellis, a big run. That is tight there as they head up the S's. Spinelli closes the door.
Philip Ellis thought about forcing the issue but had to back out of it, and here comes Ryan Dial in the Ferrari. That has been the car on the move over the last 5 or 10 minutes. He's now into this fight. It's a three-way battle for the top 3 overall.
Something's flapping there on the hood there of the Winward racing machine. I think it may be a seal around the ducting possibly coming adrift.
This car slipping and sliding as they get deep into the stint. It's a hot day in upstate New York, and these tires are screaming for mercy. They're not going to get any.
Spinelli's just got to dig deep here, try and hang on. How much do you want to play with, though? You don't want to get roughed up. You don't want to damage your race car. Maybe put it back in the hand of the team here to try and execute the perfect pit stop, but they know that the overcut could work. If they come in early, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Agakani to get up to speed, while Philip Ellis could potentially still be cutting hot laps. Undercut versus overcut could be the factor here.
Ellis dodging and weaving left and right, just probing, trying to find a weakness, trying to find a way by. None has presented itself. We are now just about halfway through the pit window. Let's see what they elect to do this time. I think you can bank on the 2 cars further back, the Pro-Am cars. They will stay out as long as possible. It's these top 2 I want to watch.
Here he comes. Spinelli's diving for pit lane.
And Ellis will stay out, so this is going to be very interesting. Is the undercut powerful enough? Can Ellis turn a quick enough lap now that he has no traffic?
Well, he's going to be hammer time for sure, and it's going to be Stephen Agakani getting a fresh set of Pirelli P0 straight out of the tire ovens, but I got a feeling that Ellis, and when he hands it over to Russell Ward with the overcut, may have the advantage with identical pit stops. That's going to be a factor as well.
But the crew still needs to execute. That's what we're about to see. US Racetronics, the team, they've been banging on the door, trying to get that first win of the season, seemingly since the green flag fell in the season opener at Sonoma. They've not been able to do it yet. A little bit of a hang up there with the window net. Every little bit makes a difference in these pit stops.
I think that was the radio cord possibly still in place as Spinelli was trying to jump out. You've got a few seconds to play with, but you can't afford it to go too far awry.
VP fuel going in. Pirelli tires going on. Not the easiest time to get those tires seated. This is the leader as they run, and he has been able to turn up the wick now that he's in clear air. Pulling away from Dial. Dial now coming under pressure from Brown. Did he stall? Yes, he did. That could cost Agakani just that little bit more, and fractions can make all the difference.
See how close he is to the minimum pit stop delta here, which is 71 seconds.
73, 74, excuse me, that's
huge.
3 over.
That's huge. Winward just needs an average pit stop to gain that track position. I'm sure that seal there that's flapping around is a bit of an annoyance as now Ellis hits pit lane. Looks like Dial and Brown are going to stay out for at least a lap. They could maybe squeak 2, it'd be tight.
Well, an easier call to make because he was approaching traffic there, so don't even bother with that. Just come in now. They know that if they execute this pit stop properly, they should vault ahead of this car. Stephen Agakande now pushing for all he's worth. The tires relatively up to temperature because of those tire warmers.
Yeah, and Winwood would know that they had a slow pit stop as well, so that could have factored in terms of that decision. But I think traffic is certainly a big factor, as you alluded to.
Tires going on. Driver change underway. Russell Ward, the Texan, will take this car home after a good opening stint from Philip Ellis.
See the orchestration there, how the tire changes hold the wheels in terms of clearing space for everyone to operate.
That looks smooth. Yep, just waiting on the fuel. That's what you hope for. And now they wait. That's usually a good sign. There's a 71-second minimum. You can't leave the pit lane before then without drawing a penalty. So usually if you're sitting there, that means you got your service done in plenty of time, and now it's just planning for the egress. Look at this. He is well clear of the US Racetronics car.
Yeah, he should have the track position. Agakani's going to be into rhythm and have momentum. Will have generated tire pressure in comparison to the Winwood machine. But here comes the Winwood machine up into the S's as Agakani exits turn one.
How good was that pit stop? Keep in mind, you do get a 1-second joker you can use in either of the two races. I hope they didn't use it yesterday because they used it to perfection today. 54 thousandths of a second to the good. This is a battle for position. This is for fourth, and there's a contact there. Farnbacher and Halen. Halen throws the hip check. He's got Jason Harward's lap car in front of him.
That is wild. Let's see if they're going to dive for pit lane or if they're going to try and squeak another one out. Looks like Farnbacher is. Halen's going to hit pit lane. Farnbacher will squeeze that window all the way down to the wire. When he hits pit lane, probably be about 15, 20 seconds left on the clock.
That might be a good call because I think there was some contact to the rear wheel of Jan Halen, and rather than taking any risk with that, come in, get that tire change done, and go. Colin Brown also has come to the pit lane. Yeah, you can see the Pirelli logo rubbed off the left rear thanks to that contact. So this works out well for Wright, and Jan Halen will turn it over to Luck.
Yeah, and DL's on pit lane, Brown is on pit lane, Halen's on pit lane. Lots of activity right now.
Farnbacher will try to put in a fast lap here and make his strategy perhaps good enough to jump over this Porsche. It's going to be tough to do it on old tires.
Let's remember, Farnbacher stayed out, so he's done the ultimate overcut here, taking it right down to the edge, the racer's edge.
John Meraki and crew rolling the dice. Bimmer World making the driver change. Chandler Hull, he was a star yesterday before some bad luck.
Wetherell's out. There goes Charlie Luck. Pepper on pit lane, switching over to Misha Goikberg.
Misha's going to have his hands full with that damaged car for the next 40 minutes and change.
Be close here for Farnbacher. Looking at the clock, you just have to be on pit lane by the time that pit stop window closes, which is at the 40-minute to go mark in this race, as you see the clock winding down. So they've timed this pretty much to perfection. Probably have about 15 seconds on the clock when he hits the stripe where you break the beam. There he is, right there.
Right on the money. 12 seconds to spare. Racer's Edge pushed it to the limit. Mario Farnbacher rewarded them. Now can the pit crew do their job? We'll wait and see. Can he jump Jan Halen? It was a good pit stop for Wright at just a couple tenths over the minimum.
Everyone cycling through here. George Kurtz now behind the wheel of the CrowdStrike entry, behind the Winwood Racing entry.
And in second overall, or I think he will be when it all cycles through, because I saw the US Racetronics car behind him, if I'm not mistaken. Great work by the Riley guys to pull that off. This is the Racer's Edge pit stop.
You're spot on there. So that 74-second stop with the 6 car really cost them dearly.
There were a couple things on that stop. We saw that radio wire that you pointed out. A little bit of trouble getting one of the wheels seated properly.
There's a lot of stall leaving the pit box. I think that was the main reason for the problem and the delay.
All right, let's watch this here. This is for position effectively. Charlie Luck, how much was he able to get up on his horse? Can he come back through on the Racer's Edge car?
think Ashton's going to be up and away. She's just got to get into a rhythm quickly. They come out the tire warmer, so it's not so much tire temperature, but pressure. There she is. I think she's going to be up to the task here.
Yeah, Mario, Racer's Edge, they all made that strategy work. They jump ahead by a considerable margin now over Charlie Luck. That puts her up one spot. That's the difference right there in the screen. Great job by Racer's Edge to make the most of their strategy. Now what can Ashton do? We'll see with 38 minutes to go at Watkins Glen.
Today's coverage is brought to you by ASUS Republic of Gamers, Motul, Stay Frosty, and 511.
The pit sequence has cycled through. That is that piece of plastic, Calvin, that you pointed out earlier.
Surprised they didn't tear that off during
Yep.
the pit stop. They should have had time or staff to be able to do that.
How much of a distraction is it to have something like that flapping in front of you?
It's just a pain. You just don't need it. You're trying to focus, you're trying to hit your marks, do everything to perfection, and that's just going to flap around at a different rate in different corners. You may be focused on your apex and suddenly it flashes up on the windshield. It's got to deal with it, of course, but it's not ideal by any stretch.
Well, the field's cycling through now for the first lap after the pit window has closed, and we'll have a better sense of just how the strategy has played out. It's Ward to the lead. George Kurtz leads in Pro-Am. The Riley guys were tremendous in the pit lane. That vaulted them up ahead of the Triarci car. Weatherall now driving that car back in fourth overall, second in class. Agakani runs third in between the top two in Pro-Am. That's the white Mercedes closing in, not for class position, but for overall and a chance to run down Russell Ward.
Yeah, Mercedes having a pretty good day, right? Top
yeah.
three overall.
Now, you did say coming into the weekend that you thought the Mercedes package might be pretty good here, and Calvin, that's the way it's played out.
Yeah, it just does everything pretty well. I'm not sure it's the strongest car in a straight line, but braking, downforce, cornering, compliance over curbs. Obviously, the big concern is the speeds that you're carrying around this high-energy racetrack is maintaining that left front. Agakani closing in here.
Very smooth and under control. Stephen Agakani desperate for that first win this season, but even a relatively trouble-free run would be welcome. They've not had many of those.
Finished second yesterday despite the late race pit stop to replace that tire. Fortunately for them, that cut down tire happened later in the lap than the 33, excuse me.
I've seen the commitment from this shot here before. Look at Agakani running it all the way out to that wall. Giving chase, trying to run down George Kurtz in the fight for second. Stephen Agakani on that last lap, a 48.5. That was the quickest lap of all the front runners. Russell Ward, by contrast, I take that back, was actually the fastest with a 46.7. So Ward right now flying at the very front. He's built his gap over this fight to 7 seconds. Agakani 1 second back right there in third. Justin Weatherall right now running second for Triarci in the car that was started by Ryan Dial. He's got a small margin over Ashton Harrison, but Ashton is starting to close in.
Yeah, Russell Ward is cutting the fastest laps by a significant margin in the field right now. Second fastest lap on the last go-around was actually Michael Dinan, who's got a lot of work to do after the unscheduled start for right front puncher. I don't think it was a tyre wear or management issue when Foley's behind the wheel. I think they just cut a tyre down, unfortunately, on the right side.
On board with Agakani taking that late apex up the hill, trying to put the power down earlier than George Kurtz in order to clear him. Staying with him right in the tire tracks.
I think George has got to let him go. There's no point in fighting this. He has the Pro-Am lead over Weatherall right now. That gap is around, 9 seconds or so. So just let Agakani go if he starts to heat the pressure on. Allow you to just focus forward and hit your marks.
Otherwise, you're just slowing each other down, and they are not embroiled in a battle for class position. Let's watch this fight play out. While we do so, let's check in with Amanda.
Well, Colin, you guys came into the pits behind the 13, and now you're ahead of Witherell on the track. And when you look at what goes into executing a perfect pit stop, what goes into it?
Well, you know, it's a lot of these guys, right? I mean, these CrowdStrike by Riley guys did a great pit stop. I was fortunate to be able to pit right on the back bumper of the 13 car, and then, you know, these guys executed a great stop. We worked super hard on that. A lot of little details in there. Our team manager, Alberto, cracks the whip and does a great job on everybody. So, yeah, you know, just a really good stint and great pit stop.
Towards the end of your stint, can you tell us anything about how the tires may have failed or some concerns that you might have for George?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest things about the Mercedes and the Pirelli tire is it seems like as the fuel load burns down, we end up going faster and faster. I was running some of my fastest laps towards the end of the race. So, you know, I think it's just going to get better and better as the fuel burns down. This place is so high grip and so much high-speed corners that the fuel weight matters tremendously. And so I think it's just going to get better and better. I know George will do a great job like he always does, and can't wait to sit up and watch the rest.
That is great news to hear if you're George Kurtz, that car only got better as the stint went along. I'm not sure that's universally true based on what we saw in the first half of the race.
Yeah, no, it's true, and we have seen that a lot though this year with this Pirelli P0. It's a new compound for this year, new construction, and what it does, it develops good speed later in the run. So as Colin alluded to, with the weight of the fuel on board, when you start the stint, car gets a lot more lively, a lot more agile later in the run. But just we talked about Agakani, you know, George Kurtz letting him go. He's now pulled a bit of a gap here on Agakani. So Agakani's been told, listen, just manage that tire. Don't push too hard. Let's see if we get a reset here with the yellow. Let Ward use his tires up out front. And just have plenty of rubber left to deal with should you get a reset.
We've talked about it several times over the course of this weekend. George Kurtz is on his game, driving with the confidence we saw at the tail end of his GT4 career when he won a GTSA championship back in 2018, I believe it was.
Yeah, you get George the confidence, and he just keeps climbing the levels. And right now he's found a sweet spot with a car that he's very comfortable with the Riley Motorsport team. And as I said before, it's all about the consistency. Put George back in the car and let it feel the same. Don't have these dramatic swings in terms of balance each and every weekend. And then he starts to deliver, and then he can get closer to Colin Brown on lap time. And then they can get a bit edgy with the setup, maybe a bit deeper into the season. Once George gets that confidence underneath him, maybe they can dial out a little bit of downforce on occasion to give it a bit more straight line speed and deal with how it's going to act in the corners.
It's the 2017 season that he won that GTSA championship. 9 wins that year in a GMG Racing McLaren. Corner speeds at the bus stop, courtesy of Race Vision powered by AWS. Saw that graphic there and how the cars stack up in that part of the track. That's also known as the inner loop. This is Agakani.
I feel like he's really just got more conservative. You can see the lines he's taken. He's not really abusing the curbs there on the exit some of these corners. I think they've just said, listen, there's no way we're going to run down the Winwood racing car. There's too much of a gap after that round of pit stops. Just settle in, protect the tires, and they are just praying that there's a full course yellow here. Get a reset, get the field bunch back up, and then go to work with maybe some fresher tires.
Battle unfolding here. Charlie Luck runs 6th overall, 4th in Pro-Am. Chandler Hull, this would be for class position right behind. And the recovering Michele Beretta after the difficult start to the race for this K-Pax Racing Lamborghini. Beretta starting to knife up through the Pro-Am traffic here in his stint.
He's starting to use those track limits as well, so in turn 8 and in turn 10. Right on the limit, right on the knife edge of that, keeping the tire on some part of the curbing there.
Hull late on the brakes, throws it up the inside of Luck, and he woes it down in time. Great move from Chandler Hull.
Yeah, it's going to give Beretta a big run now.
Kaylee slots back in line, the pole sitter yesterday. Oh, this is side-by-side for position. Ashton Harrison, Justin Wetherill swapping around the 2nd spot in Pro-Am.
Yeah, so both these drivers trying to look ahead and see where George Kurtz is down the road. Long way, about 10 seconds up the road, but just under 30 minutes to go. George has got to manage that pace. Seems like he's up on the wheel. Gap, Agakani. Kurtz sits 12 seconds back of the overall leader, Russell Ward.
The nature of this Pro-Am Championship this year, no one has stamped a claim on it. There are at least 6 cars that are within striking distance. So all of these changes in position so important with the championship in mind. Under 30 minutes to go at Watkins Glen, and Russell Ward has this one under control.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
Minutes on the clock. This is a recovery drive for Michael Dynan. He had that tire issue early in the race. He's got back to 11th in the overall order. Side by side here, Aaron Vogel racing with an Ofrio Triarci, not for class position, but Vogel trying to get through the traffic. Right behind her is Goikberg in that car that is really, really struggling for K-Pax Racing. We talked about the issue with that diffuser, and Misha is having a tough time of it.
He's dropping back here rapidly, so I'm not sure if that issue is getting worse. You can see it from head-on camera angle. It's really flapping around even more than when Pepper was behind the wheel.
This is the Canadian, Misha Goikberg. Been in and around the sports car paddocks for a while. You see a little bit of a lockup there. Car unbalanced under braking, and keep in mind, downforce, yeah, it helps you corner, but it helps you brake too. And when it's inconsistent, it can really wreak havoc with your braking.
Well, it's downright scary on this racetrack as a high commitment track, big speeds involved, and if you're suddenly going through a corner and the car suddenly twitches on you because it's losing downforce, not ideal.
Aaron Vogel continuing to chase an Ofrio Triarci. That Triarci AM car, where they stack up in the overall order, it's just getting better and better as the year goes along. And Ofrio and Charlie both getting stronger as the year goes. That was Michael Cooper watching on. He had the first stint in this Acura.
Along with Nathan Bonneau, the team manager there for real time, and Jim Bell, the engineer. A really solid run here yesterday with that podium in the Pro-Am class. Aaron is just really still finding their feet with this chassis. I mean, they had the issues at VIR where Michael had a technical failure on the brakes. Unfortunately, had a big crash into Madison Snow, but even so, they're just really trying to find the sweet spot with the chassis. Seems to be a little bit better in race trim, as we've said before. Struggle for 1 lap pace, but Aaron was up on the wheel really hard early yesterday.
Yeah, she was. When the car is right and her confidence level is high, she is really, really quick. Loves her racing. As we look back at the front of the field, Russell Ward with now a 13.8 second lead over George Kurtz and Stephen Agakani with 25 minutes to go. That lead continuing to grow for the Texan. Russell Ward, 13.8 seconds. Kurtz in second. Agakani, we're told, might be dealing with some kind of a steering issue.
Yeah, says the car just does not feel right, so he's kind of nursing it here, trying to get it to the finish. And that's why he's dropped away by some almost 5 seconds to George Kurtz. Still sits second in the pro class, but now some 18 seconds as Misha Goikberg may have called it a day here. If this car is too scary to drive, he doesn't want to send it into the fence.
What a frustrating weekend. They had something with the throttle body acting up yesterday in the race. At least that's what they thought it was. And now this is a diffuser issue. Really a tough day, tough weekend all around for Goikberg and Jordan Pepper.
For the whole team in general, to see their best car sitting in 7th overall. 3rd in pro with Beretta.
They want to put that behind them quickly, and they'll need to, because that whole team is headed over to Belgium at the conclusion of this race. They'll be participating once again in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa, the crown jewel event in the SRO portfolio. 65 GT3 cars set to take the green flag next week in the Ardennes Forest at one of the great circuits in the world.
Just looking at the problems for Agakani right now, he holds 2nd in pro. Beretta is 17 seconds back with a lot of time on the clock. So he's trying to nurse this car, but he can't afford to drop his lap times too much with the amount of time left. Otherwise, he's going to potentially allow Michele Beretta to catch him for second in the pro class.
Will be the thing to keep an eye on here over the final 23 minutes. Let's watch his hands. Does this tell you anything here?
Looks pretty smooth.
Certainly looks conservative. He's not hacking at the wheel at all. Very measured inputs.
Just not feeling something from the front end, it would appear. And his last lap was 1.7 seconds slower than Michele Beretta, so that's what he's got to be careful with. At that sort of delta, Beretta would catch him before the checkered flag.
Beretta has been moving forward at a good clip, working through the traffic. Up next will be Chandler Hull. Not too far up the road will be Wetherill, Harrison, and then this car.
Well, that's going to be a key for Beretta. He may get a little bit more aggressive in terms of cutting through that Pro-Am traffic than normal, because the team will certainly be alerted to this in terms of Agakani's pace slowing a little bit. Yeah, he just ran 2 consecutive laps in the low 49 range, and Beretta's run a mid 47, so that's a huge swing.
This team just can't buy a break. Admittedly, some of the issues have been self-inflicted. They'd be the first to say that, but some absolutely out of their control. Beretta going way wide over the curbing there in his pursuit of Chandler Hull.
Yeah, and then both of them moving forward. 2 seconds the delta between Beretta and Agakani. So that gap now is down to 15 seconds with lots of laps to play for.
Split, he should get there, but he does have some traffic to work through, and just how much cooperation he gets from some of these other cars. Chandler Hull has got his own race to worry about right now. He wants to try and catch Wetherill for the final step of the podium, and he's been pretty quick the last few times by.
Yeah, he's got enough pace to get there as well, so he's got a target. That's going to keep him pushing forward. He's not going to settle in here and just try and defend from Beretta. He's trying to chase that Ferrari right in front of him.
Yeah, we saw it come through the shot there a moment ago. Hull is getting closer, and not in small chunks, but he's making progress hand over fist.
Yeah, even Chandler Hull's pace in comparison to Agakani is enough. So even if Beretta sits here and let Chandler do his thing, will be enough to catch Agakani, unless Agakani responds and starts to dig a little bit deeper.
Well, what we're seeing from Chandler Hull is what Bill Oberlin was talking to us about earlier this weekend, when Bill said, yeah, you know, on these weekends the car's not great and I can't fight at the sharp end. We need Chandler to carry the load and be the difference maker. Keep in mind, there have been no safety car interventions in this race. It's been clean and green, so this is down to pace here, and Hull is dragging this car forward after a difficult start.
Yeah, and they've had 4 podium runs this year, so we're on the verge of one yesterday until that late race tire issue. Chandler's done a really nice job. He's really come to grips with this GT3 increase in performance and downforce nicely. He's been a very busy driver over the last few seasons, really just trying to shorten that learning curve a little bit for him, giving him plenty of seat time, but this year he's just very focused on this one program.
Down to 20 minutes to go, getting down to the wire. Everyone pushing for the last couple positions they can gain before this one's all said and done. Chandler Hull with the Lamborghini hot on his heels. Well, 20 minutes even on the clock. Chandler Hull, you brought it up. He's done a lot of racing the past few years. Won the 24-Hour Series GT4 Championship last year, including a win at the 24 Hours of Dubai. Raced in the Asian Le Mans Series with the Vulcanhorst team. Did that in one of the GT3 BMWs. Did a lot at the Nürburgring. Uh-oh, problems here for Turner.
Dinan had been cutting some really fast laps.
Yes, he had. Looks like he's back up to speed now, and the windshield wiper is going. So I wonder if he had a moment and that knocked that windshield wiper lever.
Probably when your arms are not elbows. They call it a wallpaper hanger in a windstorm or something.
It's a new one. Uh-oh.
He's got an issue.
Yes,
slowing.
he does. Yeah, that didn't look quite right at all. Now it seems to be back up to pace again, so this is very strange.
He's looking tentative, though.
This is the car that won in Pro yesterday, 3rd overall. Foley, Michael Dinan. Dinan in particular was remarkable at the start of the race yesterday.
That's a shame, because he was the fastest man on the racetrack last go-around. This battle is heating up here. This is for 3rd in Pro-Am, with Weatherall going to get the attention of Chandler Hull here momentarily.
Chandler's got the pace. Now he's got to find a way to get by. On board we go.
And this is critical for Beretta. They both need to clear Weatherall quickly. Otherwise, it's going to eat into that potential. Oh, Beretta sends it.
Yes, he does. Around the outside. Can he make it 2 for 1? Wow, all the way out onto the grass. Kicks up the dust. He's got the inside line here, but does he have the momentum? Late on the brakes. He knows his chance to go up another spot means he needs to go now. Hull now has a chance to follow him through.
Yeah, Hull's going to take advantage of that. Justin has to give way. Looks back to the inside. So this is great news for Beretta. He has an opportunity to catch Agricotti still here before the checkered flag.
Welcome to top-level GT3 racing, Justin Weatherall. Not sure he's seen a move like that one before. It is go time for Michele Beretta if he's going to run down Stephen Agricotti. 17 minutes, 26 seconds to go. Hole around Weatherall as well. That puts him up in the final podium position in the Pro-Am class. What a move. Michele Beretta picked up 2 spots in 1, and this is how he did it from on board with Chandler Hull. Now we jump back.
Yeah, Hull just gets patient there, try to time a run on Weatherall coming off of turn 6 there. Beretta sees the opportunity, fires it down the inside, runs a little bit wide, and then just stoves it in on the brakes as they hit the toe of the boot.
Able to sneak past Weatherall as well. Chandler Hull follows him through, so move Beretta to P5 overall. Hull to P6, but 3rd in class, and Weatherall dropping a couple of spots with 16.5 minutes to go.
For Chandler Hull, I think Kurtz is out of reach, but certainly Ashton Harrison is now in his sights as well, so he's going to dig deep, see if he can get in the wheel tracks here of Michele Beretta and try and chase down that Racer's Edge NSX. There she is, exiting turn 6. Everyone was mixed up, so can't really relate to the last lap time. She was a little bit quicker, but they was earned some dicing there with Weatherall, which would have stymied Chandler Hull's lap time, certainly.
This continues to be the car that is in command with under 16 minutes left. Russell Ward now leading by over 16 seconds at the last time of asking.
And this is a team that deserves a win. They've been doing a lot of things right. They have been messing up and losing victories. It's been out of their control many times.
George Kurtz continuing to rip off really competitive laps. He's right there within a 10th of Ward.
Yeah, and he's really stretching the gap back to Agricotti. It's now 10.8 seconds between he and Agricotti, but the next Pro-Am car is the one he's concerned with, is Ashton Harrison, and he's got a 15-second gap over her.
And she's going to have to deal with Beretta and quite possibly the ailing car of Stephen Agricotti before it's all said and done.
Yeah, I see the 2 battles here potentially between Hull and Harrison for P2 in Pro-Am, and the 6 car of Agricotti and the 1 car of Beretta for 2nd in Pro, potential between now and the checkered flag. Yeah, Agriconti's car just doesn't look comfortable there. See how he's weaving around there, trying to search for the entry point, and Beretta's coming in a hurry.
Yes, he is. Let's compare lap times. Beretta that last time by a 46.7. Compare that to a 49 flat for Agricotti. So a big chunk every single lap for Beretta in that K-Pax car, which had its long win streak snapped yesterday. Not going to win today, but they can salvage
some tires there in the backdrop. I'm not sure if someone had a moment.
I heard that too. What do you do here if you're Ashton Harrison?
Well, she just needs to talk to the team. What do I need to do here? Who's got the pace? Last time across the stripe, she ran a 148.5. Chandler Hull was 4/10 quicker. So he's back there to the tune of about 4 seconds. So So at that pace, it would take 10 laps to get to her, and that's about what's left. Slightly less than that. So if she maintains that speed delta, that will be okay, but it's going to get awfully tight. Can't afford to waste any time in Beretta making a move and delaying her, so she may elect to let him go. As you can see, it seems like the Acura stretches it a little bit down the front stretch. We'll probably do the same up through the S's and along the back stretch as well. But then at some point, as you can see, Beretta flirting with those track limits once again.
Got a warning a few laps ago. He's going to have to be very careful with that the rest of the way.
Well, there's a lot of consternation. He felt that he was aggrieved with the penalty yesterday, where he kind of squeezed Michael Dinan, where he went off the road at this sector of the racetrack yesterday, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't give you a freebie come today in terms of track limits. The stewards will still make the right call and take the appropriate action if you're not abiding by the track limits.
This goes to show the pace that Ashton Harrison has, because yes, Beretta caught her, but now trying to find the advantage to get by. It's been a lap and a half, and there has not been an opportunity for Beretta. He's getting a bit impatient back there, flashing those headlights.
Yeah, as he needs to go, but Chandler Hull has definitely got the hammer down as well. 7 tenths quicker, 9 tenths quicker than Ashton on the last lap.
And every lap, you can tell this fight is getting that much closer to Stephen Agakani, who, it should be said, is doing an admirable job to nurse home an ailing race car. It has not felt good since his stint began.
He's keeping it clean. He's not making the big mistake. He's actually responded a little bit in terms of lap time, so Beretta's progress is certainly being stymied. He's going to get pretty forceful, I hear, with the move as soon as he gets close enough. But right here, expect the Acura to maybe stretch the gap a car length down this front stretch. Does he make a big, bold move down the inside? And what a day it would be for Caldarelli. So much on the back foot. If they could come out of this race with P2, they're P3 right now, and again, he's up and over that curb. And I understand you're going to get that aero wash from the car in front, but you have to dial that into the mixture in terms of how you're going to attack that corner.
Let's look at the lap times that last time by Agakani, a 48.6. Harrison, a 48.6. 48.6 for Beretta. So yeah, Agakani has answered.
He has. He's turned it up a notch. Beretta's got more pace there, probably about another second if he had clean air in front of him. So he's getting stymied here a little bit. There he goes, looks down to the inside. Ashton opens up the hands, going to be side by side coming off. She's going to have to let it go, but stay right with him. Can't afford to lose any time. Look how close Chandler Hull is right now.
That's right, don't want to fight too hard there. If you're going to keep Chandler Hull at bay, but Chandler has gained a ton of ground. Now Beretta is turned loose. He'll try to run down Agakani. Now Hull has caught Harrison. He'll have a chance here in the final 10.5 minutes. And while that sets up, here's Amanda in the pits.
Well, that is definitely the plan for that K-Pax car. I was talking to Thomas Blom, and tracking down Stephen Agakani is exactly what they're trying to do. They do know that he is vulnerable with that steering issue, but I want to go back to the conversation that I had with Michele Beretta before he got in the car. He said that simply he just wanted to make sure that they earned points today. He knows that the car is down on speed, and he said where it affects them mostly is in Sector 1. I was looking over some of those times, and it looks like that the Lambo is performing well there, but we'll see if there is time left on this clock to get to that Mercedes.
Let's compare the pace. That last lap, Beretta was hampered by traffic, but even still was 0.6 of a second quicker than Agakani, so he should get there in short order. Under 10 minutes to go. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty. Russell Ward is in control, but several positions are very much up for grabs here in the final 9 minutes.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Lamborghini, Lexus, and Mercedes-AMG.
Chandler Hull running right in the tire tracks of Ashton Harrison. Ashton right now second in Pro-Am. Chandler Hull doing what he can to take that away from her here in the waning minutes.
Yeah, this is going to be a great battle here. They're both on the podium right now, but which step will it be?
Waiting to pick up the pieces would be Justin Wetherill. He runs 7th, the overall 4th in class. Should anything go awry between these two?
Well, Ashton is a fierce competitor. She's not going to give up that position easily, so even if Chandler gets right on the tail, and there you see the gap is coming down between Agakani and Beretta. This will be the telltale sign here as they cross the stripe with clean air on Beretta's nose of that Lamborghini. What sort of pace comparison does he have? Whew, that was sweet. Talk about nailing the radius through that final corner.
Beretta pushing that Lamborghini for all it's worth.
2
Looking
seconds.
at the lap times, wow. Yeah, and the gap is what, 2 seconds? He should be there by the end of the lap, and oh, problems for Agakani, he is off. The car has given up the ghost. He pulled it to the side of the track. I saw it wobbling back and forth, and Stephen Agakani will once again have a race slip away from him in the final minutes. What a frustrating season this has turned into.
Yeah, he's trying to find a safe haven here. Otherwise, we're going to see a full course yellow. The Stewards will give it a little bit. He's got reverse.
Maybe backing up the pit lane or no, into this cutout.
Maybe a tolling, possibly, we're hearing.
See him talking, and the hand speaks volumes, doesn't it? When you're talking like that on the radio.
The team would love him to get it back to pit lane, but it's a long 3 miles from that point on the racetrack.
Well, that takes the drama out of the fight for second in pro. Goes the way of Michele Beretta, which means the best battle we've got is this one here. Ashton Harrison. We know she's up for a challenge. Chandler Hull is too. Two of the rising stars in North American GT racing. Harrison and Hull about to go at it here for the final 7 minutes of this race. That is the stricken car of Stephen Agakani, a, we believe, suspension issue. It came upon him rather suddenly and allowed Michele Beretta to get through.
Yeah, just exited in turn 1. You see the car weaving around under acceleration, no control. That right rear tire. On board with him there, look at that. He's got no control of this race car. Pulls it to a halt before you get up to that funneling effect up through the S's. He felt something was amiss from the moment he got behind the wheel of this race car here today. And finally it breaks. I'm not sure if the toe link was coming loose and finally let go, or was fractured and just moving around and didn't give him the stability on the entry to the corners. The good news for this man, Russell Ward, is that he didn't bring out a full course yellow. Otherwise, that big lead would have been gone.
That's a good point. And Ward has been very conservative over the last few laps. He's got a healthy lead, but he just did a lap in the 150s. Compare that to a 46 from Beretta.
He's cruising.
14 seconds his edge over this car. George Kurtz, who's running high 49s at the moment, also not incentivized to push any harder than is absolutely necessary with 5 minutes to go and everyone just nursing their cars to the finish.
Yeah, so Ward has a 23-second lead over the second place Beretta, who's 3rd overall. Kurt sits 2nd overall leader in Pro-Am, and he's got a 13-second lead. So it's really all about Harrison versus Hull right now for that 2nd or 3rd spot on the podium.
By the way, earlier we thought there might have been a problem for Michael Dinan. We're told that's not the case. He continues to circulate.
Is that Beretta in pit lane?
It is Beretta in pit lane. What is happening here?
Wow, where is Dinan?
Yeah.
I think Dinan is probably close enough, unless this is a real sharp, quick pit stop. Dinan may suddenly get elevated to 2nd in the pro class.
Left rear?
Yeah, there's potential. We've seen a lot of left fronts, but with the mid-engined Lamborghini, it could be a left rear issue.
Well, we know he was pushing it. He was using all of those curbs, trying to get up there into that 2nd spot, and now paying the price for the aggression.
Key is going to be, who is Michael Dinan. Was 9th overall. Pretty quick stop here.
It's Luck going through. 2 cars further down will be Dynan.
He's just coming down into turn 1. He's not going to be far behind him. He's going to be up to speed here, just exiting turn 1. It's going to be tight, but just a nice quick stop there by the K-Pax crew. So much experience on that squad with lightning fast pit stops in endurance competition. That came into play right then.
Sure did. K-Pax crew absolutely executing, and that will save, for now at least, Beretta and Caldarelli a top 2 finish in their respective class.
Ward is nursing it. No pun intended.
And by a large amount. I mean, that last lap was a 54.4. So now you wonder, is he feeling something perhaps amiss? That is way, way off the pace. He's really backed it down.
He's pulling a Nigel Mansell here. Start waving at the crowd.
That's right. No backing down here. Chandler Holt continuing to push. On board now with the American driver. Ashton Harrison up ahead in the fight for second in class.
She's not letting it go, is she? Continuing to hit her marks, not make the mistake. She's got the advantage up the S's and into that backstretch.
Well, normally this is where you'd say the BMW is really strong, but our race vision stats this weekend have shown that the Acura is pretty stout through this part of the track too. Although is clearly closing in. That's going to force Ashton on the defensive.
She keeps it there. Got to be careful there. He's almost on a flank. He can't move back over on line if he's right there. We'll watch that one too. Allowed to be proactive on that first move, but can't be reactive to where the driver is. And look at this. George Kurtz has caught Russell Ward here. So it's not for a class position, but for the overall lead. George Kurtz goes to the front. How much trouble is Russell Ward in? I know he's backing off, protecting the gap to the next position in pro class, but this is extreme.
Well, the good news is the next car in class is 50 seconds back after that pit stop from Beretta. Beretta has a 2.5-second lead over Dynan. Could we see for the second straight day a Pro-Am car win overall? It certainly looks like it, with George Kurtz now out in front.
Great stint by George, just got the hammer down. I thought he was vulnerable there for a while to Agakani. Then Agakani was having issues. George has kept pushing, and Russell Ward has got more issues, I feel, than just trying to nurse the car to the finish right now.
Coming around, the good news for him is this should be the white flag lap coming up. George Kurtz and Colin Brown, they've got 1 lap to go, separating them from an overall race win.
Just wonder if Ward is feeling a vibration or something. They're just trying to get it to the line. The stop for Beretta really helped their cause.
Oh, and that's a problem for another Mercedes. That is the Scott Smithson driven car. That's at the exit of the inner loop. That's in a perilous position. Looking like he's trying to get that car refired. George Kurtz, Colin Brown, the season they've had, they came into the weekend as the points leaders. They had podiumed in all but 1 race so far this season coming into this weekend, and they are close to adding a 3rd win in the last 6.
Wetherell's got to keep pushing this final lap. Charlie Luck's not too far behind there. That would be for 4th in the Pro-Am class.
Wetherell in the Ferrari, Beretta in the Lamborghini here on the final lap in Watkins Glen.
Excuse me, this is Triazzi we're looking at. And here comes that battle. I think they've got this one plus 1 more, right? With the Delta to the front. Where is the overall leader? Kurtz. No, this should be their final lap as well. Kurtz is not that far ahead of them.
Last chance here for Chandler Holt to take it away from Ashton Harrison, who has driven a very good race. Mario Farnbacher did a great job. Racers Edge team, remember their strategy. They pushed that pit stop late. That helped them with track position. Holt takes a lunge.
Ashton sees it, opens up the hand, so there's not contact, but not enough to allow Chandler through.
Good respectful racing from the pair of them, but at the very front of the field, Riley Motorsports set to win overall for the first time in GT World Challenge America. George Kurtz and Colin Brown take the race win in race 2 at Watkins Glen. The Pro Class win goes to Windward Racing, breaking a difficult spell for them. And how about it? Ashton Harrison holds off Chandler Holt for 2nd place. hole completes the Pro-Am podium. Now back we go to Beretta, just trying to bring that K-Pax car home in second. Ahead of him, though, is the AM class car of Triarci. Triarci and Scardina set to win again for the Triarci Competizione team out of the final corner for the final time, and Triarci victorious at Watkins Glen.
Dynan brings the Turner Motorsports car across the line, third in the pro class.
He got around Charlie Luck for overall position on that last lap. Luck brought his car home in fifth. But fifth compared to first for George Kurtz and Colin Brown. These two building their points lead back up after it got cut in half yesterday. A big result for the Riley Motorsports duo. They get the job done overall and in Pro-Am. Well, an interesting weekend at Watkins Glen has come to a close. Talked about it yesterday, finishing second overall. Normally, you'd say, what a great weekend for a Pro-Am team, but George Kurtz and Colin Brown had their lead halved with that result yesterday. But a huge result here to come home, not just with the win, not just an overall win, but you look at where their closest pursuers are, down the order in fifth for Luck and Halen. That's a big points haul then for the winners.
Big swing, perfect weekend for them, really. I don't mean by sweeping, but certainly runner-up finish, and then a win here today with their nearest competitor not having the best of days. This is a race, or a couple of races, Ryan, where we just couldn't really just settle in. You just never know what was going to happen next.
Unpredictable, that's for sure. Race winners in the AM class, Charlie Scardina and Onofrio Triarci, finishing sixth overall. Another stout run from these two. It's been a great debut season for them, at least full-time in this championship.
Team is delivering. Mark Schulman engineering this car, Scott Best on the other car. DL had a strong run there with Weatherall there today, finishing P4. George Kurtz jumps out. How about that?
Well,
his win this morning, making that move late in the lap there on the final lap around Harwood was immense. Greg Gill jumps in, offers his congratulations. That was great.
Well, and if there's ever a time you want a shot in the arm, it's going into the biggest race of the SRO calendar, and that's exactly where George is headed next week. In fact, in just a few days, he'll be on track at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, taking part for, I believe, the third time in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa, and he's going to be doing it with a ton of confidence after this weekend.
Probably a ton of champagne in his body as well to help him sleep on the way over.
He'll take it how you can get it. Great result from that pair. Colin Brown smiles all around. You could see what it meant to both of them. Bringing that Riley team here to SRO America for the first time has been a good move. They've been on it since the very start of the season. And with less than half of the races to go, they have emerged as the championship favorites now within the Pro-Am class. Overall win for the CrowdStrike Riley Motorsports Mercedes. Let's hear from the drivers now.
And it was an excellent pit stop to lead to them getting that Pro-Am lead. And George, you ended up getting into the overall position, the first one for you guys together in GT World Challenge. How special is that?
Oh, it's unbelievable. You know, we just kept our heads down. The CrowdStrike and Riley guys gave us a great car, and you know, we knew we had the pace. We had to put it all together. It was a great pit stop, and you know, it was a team effort. So we're so excited, and I was battling some of the other pro guys, and you know, I wasn't going to let up. So we just kept our heads down and managed to get P1.
Well, we talk about the pros that are on track, especially in your stint, battling around these names that are in this Fanatec GT series. What was your experience like here at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it was great. You know, it's a lot of fun. I mean, these cars are super hard to pass in when you stick all the pros in them. You know, we're all just right on the ragged edge. And so a lot of fun to, you know, be up there racing those guys. It was fun racing with Pepper. And, you know, I was really happy to be able to bring the car into Georgia with a good gap over the next Pro-Am car. And then, you know, we just took it to those guys in the pro class that, you know, that had some worse pit stops and had some things go on. So proud of these guys on the pit stop. I mean, that was an awesome stop. We executed that perfect. And I think that's a testament to the, you know, hard work and the commitment these guys, you know, put in preparation-wise coming to the racetrack. And yeah, you can't ask for more than that from the CrowdStrike Rally guys. They just did a heck of a job.
Well done. Your overall winners here at race 2 at Watkins Glen.
Number 1 indeed. No one could beat him, that's for sure. Not today. George Kurtz, Colin Brown. Here we take a look at the provisional race results. Margin of victory, 4 seconds. Whatever was going on for Philip Ellis and Russell Ward there at the end, the good news is they had enough of a cushion, and Russell nursed it home.
He did. He did what was necessary, and be good to chat with him and see how much of a problem he did indeed have, but they were sweating bullets there at the end.
No kidding. Still pick up the win in the pro class. Farnbacher and Harrison, a nice run for the pair of them. Racer's Edge, you look at the qualifying results, and they were kind of middle of the pack. They come away with a very good finish in race 2 and showed some strength in race 1 as well.
They really did. Ashton did a great job just defending there from Chandler Hull, who's having an immense run there for Bimmerwald.
Second overall, but first in pro for the first time this season, Windward Racing in victory lane. Amanda?
Well, as you just said, Ryan, they do get the class win, but I think Russell Ward took that a little hard. He did leave the interview and in walking towards the pits, but before he headed that direction, Philip, did Russell tell you anything about what he might have been battling?
No, I didn't even catch him yet. So, but we think something broke on the suspension. So basically the same thing happened, we think, to the number 6 car. So we just tried to bring it home somehow and decided to let George by, Good for them as well to win it again overall. Of course, a bit sad for us that we didn't take the actual overall win, which we should have had again. But, we'll take the class win today, and let's see if we can catch Russell afterwards.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Philip Ellis, thanks for the information. Interesting that a couple Mercedes had that same issue. That's not something we've seen pop up before.
No, and I think just Russell Ward is just, they got the pro win, but he wanted the overall win. He's doing a spectacular job there, and he's just frustrated. It's just like, what can happen next? Getting the maximum point score, but not seeing the checkered flag first here today once again.
And one more time to Victory Circle and Amanda.
Well, your AM winners escaped us for an interview yesterday, so I'm hoping race number 2 here was better for you. And I just, seeing how exhausted you are getting out of the car with the heat here, what can you tell us about your stint here at Watkins Glen, Charlie?
Again, just getting more track time in the car. I'm having some trouble getting tires with temperature and a lot of pickup when getting out of the pit, so working on that really hard. But otherwise, the car was great. RC Constitucione did an easy job setting up the car for this weekend, so happy that we are able to finish where we deserve.
I know from the adversity that you guys faced yesterday, what did you focus on today?
So we made some changes overnight, and we really wanted to push hard today. We made the right changes to the car, and at the start of the race, we were able to do really well in the first stint, keep the pace up, and handed the car over to Charlie, and he finished off the job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Another nice clean run for this duo, and yeah, they ran unopposed today, but even up against the likes of AF Corsa this season, when they have had competition, they've looked really, really strong. So well-deserved, good result in the overall order as well here at Watkins Glen.
Today's coverage is brought to you by Porsche, Optima Batteries, and Skip Barber Racing School.
Brings to a close a busy 2 days of racing at Watkins Glen International. Up next on the schedule, a trip to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, America's National Park of Speed, Road America for a pair of races there. Then down to Sebring to test all the bumps on the classic airport circuit, and then closing the season out with an 8-hour enduro. And this year, the full 8 hours will pay the points for Fanatec GT, which has not been the case in the past at the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is a great run to the finish of this season.
It is spectacular. Road America. What's your record on double brats, by the way?
Ooh, I think I could put a few away. I'm afraid to admit just how many. Well, at any event, let's get an update here on what happened from U.S. Racetronics. Earlier today, Amanda had a chance to catch up with Laura Spinelli.
Catching Laura Spinelli before he heads out of the track, and you were saying that you were facing the issues with the car on the last couple laps in your stint. What can you tell us about the Mercedes?
Yeah, big pain, honestly. During my stint, I start to feel this problem. Already 3 laps to go of my stint. I thought we were able to keep this problem and running as well. But yeah, we saw right now at 5 minutes to go that Steven have to park the car. I'm really disappointed for the championship, for the team, that we work really hard. We are really fast, but we never yet could be the leading of the race.
We'll see you at Road America.
Yeah, a lot of explain things, because he was feeling the pressure there right at the end. Seemed to really be controlling things, and suddenly Ellis was right on him. That allowed DL and Brown to get there right as well, just before he hit pit lane.
And how close they were to making it to the end. If this had been an 85-minute race, they would have made it.
Yeah. It's just tough. I mean, it just takes a lot. It takes perfect execution, and you got to tick all of the boxes. And as you said, they keep finding a way, but they got to keep digging deep. Winwood have done it before. They've had disappointment. They come through for a pro win, admittedly not the overall they were looking for today.
No, it is not, but they will still have several chances yet this season to right the ship and get the result that they think they deserve. And frankly, they do deserve, based on the pace we've seen throughout the course of the season. Still, those 2 races at Road America, 2 at Sebring, and then the 8-hour race to wrap the season up at Indianapolis come October. A look there at Victory Circle, which is about to get very busy with the podium celebrations. Some happy folks about to climb those stairs and celebrate where some of the best in the history of this sport have done the same over the years. Watkins Glen International, the host of Fanatec GT once again this season. Podium celebrations now getting underway. You see Michael Dinan and Robbie Foley. They come home third. Had the win in the pro class yesterday, third overall. Frankly, it was not the strongest weekend for them pace-wise, but they still found ways to shine. Michael Dinan on those starts and restarts, and then the perseverance to get a couple podiums.
Yeah, he had that little loop there, but just a really strong performance by just maximizing the result that was possible. And they'll live to fight a better day. It just seems like the BMW's overall pace is not quite there at the moment.
Caldarelli and Beretta coming home second. This is the first weekend all year that they did not win a race. And you see the race winners there up at the top. Let's take a look at highlights from race 2 of the weekend. It was a fun race. That's the green flag flying, about 90 minutes ago. And at the very front, Laura Spinelli from pole led them away, but the battle broke out behind them.
Yeah, Pepper started to struggle a little bit as diffuser was coming loose, losing downforce and losing positions at the same time.
Halen was able to sweep by. Farnbacher looking to do the same in the Racer's Edge Racer's Edge Acura rather. Great fight here between Halen and Farnbacher. A little bit of contact, but all things considered, Rubbing's racing right. They continued on.
They did. Halen hit pit lane, then later in the run here, big bold move down to the inside by Chandler Hull on Charlie Luck takes the position.
Yeah, great job there by Chandler Hull, and then he went off in pursuit of his next target. This was the recovering Michele Beretta coming up through the field. Unfortunately, he would have a tire issue that would cost him a chance to race for the class win in the pro class, but all in all, a good recovery for K-Pax on a difficult weekend. This again is Beretta working on Ashton Harrison, but he was going to have that tire issue shortly after this moment that relegated him further down. Leading the race, this was the problem for Stephen Agakani. They think it was a toe link that went bad.
Yeah, just unfortunate for them from P2 in the pro class. And then the Winwood racing car, they had similar issues, we believe, with suspension. That allowed George Kurtz to sprint on by.
Not just a Pro-Am win, but a win overall for Riley Motorsports, and that is what it means. Great reaction from George and his co-driver, Colin Brown, celebrating victory, not just in class, but overall, and building that championship lead in the Pro-Am class. It's still pretty close. There's still a number of crews that feel like they've got a shot at it, but I think at this stage, it's safe to say the championship goes through Riley.
It does. I mean, because they've got the consistency. They're getting the results. They're putting points on the board. But there's a lot of really fast teams out there, and we visit 3 more circuits yet. A lot of points still to be gained.
Calvin, final thoughts on the weekend at Watkins Glen?
Well, I love coming here. It's a mega circuit. It demands a lot. It's pretty treacherous in terms of maintaining the car right. The loads through these high-speed corners are immense, and you just got to survive.
From one high-speed, high-commitment track to another, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin's Road America is up next for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Can K-Pax Racing get back in the groove? What will happen in the Pro-Am Championship? And might some new contenders emerge in Am? Well, we'll find out in about a month's time. Thanks for joining us here at Watkins Glen. I'm Ryan for Cal and Amanda. So long.
Here today for CrowdStrike Racing with Riley Motorsports, George Kurtz and Colin Brown.
Everyone said we were done.
All right, guys, go ahead and grab those trophies. All right, if you could swap out those caps for us, go ahead and put on the VP Racing fuel caps, and we'll get another couple of pictures there with the trophies. And thank you so much. One more time for the trading of the caps. Go ahead and put on those Pirelli caps and spray the champagne! One more big round of applause for your AM and Pro and Podium. Also want to give a big shout out to the CrowdStrike fastest lap winner, Loris Spinelli, who was able to clock at a time of 1:45.183. Thank you everyone so much for coming here today, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time in Nashville.